We're going to create something I call a rope lock, and it's going to be made in an app called OnShape, which is an online app which works quite well on both Chromebooks, Macs, and on PCs as well. The rope lock is a very simple device which basically enables you to tie or fix a rope without actually having to tie a knot. It's great for things like camping, and I use it to tie stuff onto the back of my bike and tie things together when I go down to the beach. I should actually note that I actually have reverse engineered this from something called a shock lock. This shock lock is a very similar design. It is used and available in Australia to buy or create using an Oki strap, which is a flexible cord, shock cord, and that is also a very useful product. We're just doing this as a learning activity, so we're not actually designing this to market to anybody, but it's a very simple learning activity. Ours is only going to work for a 4mm rope, and that rope has to be reasonably soft and a little bit flexible. So it's not the perfect rope, it's more of a cheap rope lock system. Now let's get into it by going into OnShape. So here I am in the document page of OnShape, and I'm going to start straight away by creating a new document. So I'll create the document, and the document is going to be called rope lock. I have other documents I've created in the past. You won't have those same documents, but I'm going to create this document, and that will open a new document. Sometimes it can take a bit, depending on how fast your internet is. So I'm working in the Part Studio for this, and I'm going to be creating one single part, so I don't have to worry too much about anything. But one thing I'm going to do is talk you through the workflow. The workflow is that you draw a sketch here, and then you extrude something, and then once you've got something extruded, you can draw more sketches and extrude more things, or you can use some of these tools once you've got that actually working. There are a few other things you can do, but that's the main workflow. So I'm going to start by drawing a sketch. I can draw a sketch on any of these planes. If I move over, for example, front, you'll see that the box around the front plane opens up. If you consider these like a number plane in maths, you'll get the drift of what these are. I'm going to use the top plane as what I'm going to draw on. It's going to create a sketch now called Sketch 1. I can rename that. I don't really want to for this one, but for more complicated things, it's a good idea to rename that. Because I want to look at that from the top down, I'm going to go over here to this box over here, and if I click on the top over here, it's going to show me the top view of that sketch plane. I can now draw a rectangle, so I'm going to click on the rectangle tool. I'm going to click and let go, and I'm going to move over here, and I'm going to click down here. Now right away, some of you will have this in inches, mine are obviously in millimeters, 81mm by here. If you're not sure about your workspace units, you can come over here to workspace units and change them to millimeters, and then press tick. Angles in degrees as well, you'll probably want that as well. So I've now got a little box or square here. It's no good to me the size that it is, so I'm going to now go back into my sketch. I've gone out of the sketch, you can see, by pressing the tick button. I'm going to go back into the sketch by double clicking over here. I'm now in the sketch because this box is here. A lot of people like to click this tick box because it's a box that says tick. Don't click it until you're finished. And along here I've got a whole bunch of tools. So I've already used the rectangle tool. Remember, it was a click and click tool. Most of the tools are click and click tools. Very few click and drag tools. The dimension tool is an important one we're going to use, and it is the tool that you need to use very carefully. So I'm going to click on the dimension tool. It's now highlighted. I can see it's got a cross. I'm going to click and let go, and I'm going to move it out here somewhere. I'm not dragging it, I'm just clicking it, and I'm going to let go and click it again here, and now I'm going to type in 45mm and press enter. So it's now 45mm long. So it's quite a short thing, and I'm now going to click. So I've still got the dimension tool highlighted. I'm going to press escape, and that will unhighlight it. It's a good idea to do that sometimes, and then click it again to make sure it's highlighted. And then I'm going to click on this line here, let go, move out. I'm going to click again, so it's a click and click, it's not a click and drag. And I'm going to type in, I think it's 16mm on this one, and press enter. So you can see I've got quite a small box. And I'd like it so that it's in that dot there, which is the center of my screen, is in the center. So the way I can do this easily is I'm going to draw a line, but it's a special type of line. It's going to be a construction line, which means it won't be used. And I'm going to move my line so that it's down here, but you can see that there's a little box that appears. And when that little box appears, a little icon appears down to the right with a dot in the middle. That's a midpoint connector, so it's going to lock it to the midpoint. And I'm going to lock it to the midpoint on this side as well. And now I can use a special tool up here called the midpoint tool to lock this point, this line and this point together on the midpoint. So that's now nicely locked in place. So that's a trick for getting things dead in the middle. Now that I've finished that first sketch, I can now have a look at it from an angled view. I can zoom up and zoom in. Wherever I zoom up, it's going to be the center of my zoom. So if I zoom up on the center of that, that's going to be best. I'm now going to press the extrude button. I'm going to select that rectangle. You can see it's now highlighted yellow. And it's going to create a 3D shape. That 3D shape is 25 millimeters. I don't want it to be 25 millimeters. I want it to be 16 millimeters. So now that it's 16 millimeters, I just clicked away there. I don't need to worry about any of the rest of these settings. I can press tick. I've now got the outside of my box ready. You'll notice that that sketch has gone invisible, so you can't see it anymore. You could turn it back on by using that eye, and now it's there again. But you don't want those sketches turned on. If there are sketches turned on and they're annoying you, just turn them off with the eye button. Now, if we remember the picture from the title slide, we'll remember that there are two big holes. Those two big holes, I think, were 10 millimeters. So I'm going to draw them in the top and drill them through. So I'm going to draw a sketch. I'm going to draw on the top again. So I'm going to go back to top view. I'm going to zoom in roughly where, having those on the middle of where I'm going to actually draw. And I'm going to draw two circles, just one here randomly and one over here randomly. And then I'm going to use the dimension tool to fix those up. So the first dimension I'm going to do is the outside dimension of here. You'll see it's got a little circle with a line through it. That means it's going to do diameter, so right through. And otherwise it would have an R for radius, so diameter right through is going to be 10 millimeters. And the diameter for this one also is going to be 10 millimeters, like so. So I've now got two circles at 10 millimeters. Now I want this first circle over on the left hand side to be a certain distance. So I've still got my dimension tool active. I haven't got anything selected. I'm going to press on the middle button. So I'm going to press on the middle button. I'm going to press on the end, and it's now going to let me, so click, click, and now I'm going to click it again. And I'm going to set this to be 9.5 millimeters from the end. Then I'm going to set the distance between these two circles from here to be 13 millimeters. I've already made one of these, so I'm using a diagram from that one to know where everything is. I'm now going to use tools. You notice that 13 millimeters happens to perfectly line up on this one here. So I'm now going to use these tools here to actually perfectly align that to the middle. So I'm going to say that these ones here are going to be horizontal. So I'm going to use this horizontal tool. I'm going to click on the mid one, and I'm going to click on that one. So they're horizontal. I'm going to make this one and this one horizontal. So now that they've turned black, that is called a resolved sketch, which means we can't change it any further unless we draw another line. So I'm going to press tick on that. We'll look at that from an angle. We might zoom in so we can see that a bit better. And we're going to now extrude. I'm going to extrude this circle and this circle. Now if I left it like that, we'd have two chimney stacks coming off that. It's like drawing a little mini factory that you could print out for some model that you're making about climate change or something like that. But we're not doing that. We're going to make this instead remove. It's now going to drill holes 25 millimeters deep, which is going to go all the way through. And I'm going to press tick on that. I now have two holes through my box. So we have a hole at the end on this closer hole in the middle, for our rope to go through and be tied off. And you'll see that with the actual model that you should be able to see in class with you. So I'm going to draw a sketch on the end model here. I'm going to look at it from the left view now, and I'm going to zoom in. Now I want it to be perfectly in the middle. How do we get perfectly in the middle? Well, we draw a special line. That's a construction line. So line tool is selected and construction tool is selected. We go to the midpoint here. We come across to this far. We go to the midpoint here, and we've got a line that's locked. I'm going to press Escape on my keyboard. And now that I've drawn that line, I can now draw a circle, which is not a construction tool, and I can lock it. You can see there the little box that occurred. That's now going to lock to the middle, so it's going to be perfectly in the middle. And that circle is going to have, I'm going to set the diameter of that circle to be 5. Now I know that the rope is 4 millimeters diameter, and this is going to be 5, which is slightly bigger than the rope. That just makes it easier to get through the rope through when you're feeding it through. So I found making it 5 was a bit better. So now that I've got that, I'm going to press tick on this. I'm going to look at this from this angle. Let's zoom up on it. And now I'm going to extrude this line through here, but I'm going to press on remove. I don't want it to go all the way through there. So I'm going to look at it from the top view. You can see it's going all the way through to there. I only need it to go through to there, and we can remember that that was 9.5 to the middle of that circle. And that should be doing it. So now I should have a hole in the end for my rope to tie through. So you poke a rope through, you tie a knot in it, and then you pull it back through, and it gets stuck in that hole. So that's the first side. We now need to do the other side. The other side has a smaller hole. This is where we do the 4 millimeter hole. This is the side of the rope that's going to have the cleat on it. So I'm going to draw a sketch on the end here, and I'm going to go onto the right. I'm going to zoom right up here. I'm going to draw a line, and I'm going to use the construction tool to do the midpoint thing again. So midpoint from there, cross to lock, and see that lock appear there, like so. And I'm going to press escape to get rid of that. And then I'm going to press on the circle tool, draw a circle, locking it to the perfect middle of about the size I want. And then I'm going to set the dimension of that, this time to be exactly 4 millimeters. I'm now going to press tick. So I'm almost there in terms of getting this done. I now need to create the cleat section, and the cleat section is going to be a tricky one. I'm going to zoom up a bit. I actually haven't done that. My bad. I need to actually click on here and extrude this through, and this has got to go to the middle point, and the middle point of 45, so it's 22.5. So if we take it 22.5 to the middle, and we remove it, like so, we'll have a hole going right through. That's what I should have done. I didn't pay attention to what I was doing there, so that's through. Now it's time to draw the cleat hole, or the cleat run. So I'm going to draw a sketch on the top, and I'm going to then come through, look at it from the top view, and draw in my cleat hole. I'm going to do this a tricky way. I'm going to show you a new trick that you can draw. So first of all, I'm going to draw a line. That is going to be a construction line. The construction line is going to go from this midpoint here all the way out to this midpoint here. And it's just going to stay there, right? So now I'm going to press escape. The next line I'm going to draw, and my cleat sort of, if you can remember what the drawing went, it went from here outside, it went down at a bit of an angle, and then it went straight for a bit, like so. So we've got that there. Okay, so I'm going to press escape for that. Now the dimensions for these lines are going to be from the middle. From the middle to here was going to be 1 millimeter. No, it's going to be 2 millimeters. No, I lie. It's definitely going to be 1 millimeter. I'm reading my own diagram and not getting it right. The distance from here to here was going to be 4 millimeters. So there's a 4 millimeter little section there. And this line here, this point here, from this point here to the midpoint here, the dimension is going to be, let me check this now, 2.5 millimeters. Okay, that doesn't seem right when I look at it, but that's what it is. What I now need to do is put a little triangle on here for some teeth. Little triangle. And the little triangle is going to go out this way and back that way, like that. I'm going to zoom up on that little triangle, and I'm going to set some rules about it. So I'm going to press escape first to get rid of that line. The rule I want is perpendicular. So that's going to be perpendicular. This line and this line are going to be at right angles. Can't do that. See how it went red? That's bad. I'm going to press Command and Z to take that back. I think this will be fine, actually. I'm just going to make it about that big. I'm just going to eyeball this. So I've got that little triangle there. I'm going to eyeball it. Next thing I'm going to try and remember how to do is that there is a tool here where you can do a linear pattern. And I'm going to select linear pattern tool, this and this. And then I'm going to select this. No, I can't remember how to do this. Command Z. Okay, I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm going to draw in another one down here, right about here, about the same. That doesn't need to be perfect. I sort of give up on that idea of doing it. You only need 3. This one can be a lot smaller. It's getting a bit close, like that. That's all you need. You probably don't even need these teeth, to be perfectly honest. I'm going to press escape. Sorry about that. I sort of forgot that I was in a different app that did it differently. Okay, I work in a number of different drawing apps and I get confused sometimes, just like students get confused. I'm now, however, going to use a tool called the mirror tool, and I'm going to select a mirror line. And that's going to be my construction line. Now I'm going to select everything I want to mirror, and that's going to be this line, this line, this line, this line. You can see what this is doing, this line, this line, this line, and this line. So I now have those lines all done. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to click on this to accept the sketch. Whew, that was difficult. Hopefully you can get through that. Hopefully you've got a whole bunch of lines with a whole bunch of little triangle teeth type things on there. And now I'm going to extrude the whole thing down. I'm going to remove it, but I'm not going to remove it the whole way through. I'm going to remove it to halfway through, which will be 8 millimeters. There we go. So now it's come halfway through. And I'm going to press tick. So now I've got this. Now in theory this will work. If I printed this out now, this will work. But we need to do a little bit more to it to make it work. And I'm sorry this is such a long video. I could break it into parts, but I think you should be able to cope with this. There are a few more things to do. One of the things that will make it work a little bit better is by going to the right hand side here, coming in and drawing a sketch on this right hand side and drawing a couple of lines, one from here to here, into the middle, a V in the middle, and one up to there, like so. Now I'm going to basically set some dimensions on this, so I'll press escape now and set some dimensions. Dimension from the middle line, so this middle line, oops. Dimension from this middle line to this point here is going to be 2.5. And same on this side, this middle line to this point here is also going to be 2.5. Oh, didn't like that at all, did it? That's because there's all these little rules in here and it's not liking that at all. So let's press Control Z. When you get a thing like this, the easy way out is to actually just draw the lines again. So this time I'm going to draw my line. I'm going to draw a line really down here, and then I'm going to draw the line like this. Now why did I do that? Is because I didn't want, see how those rules start popping up everywhere? I don't want any of those rules to pop up. So now I'm going to do this dimension. From this line here to this line here is going to be 2.5, and from this point here to this point here is also going to be 2.5. Okay, now from this point here, to this line here to this point here, I only want that to be maybe about 4mm. That's much better. Okay, so now I've got that. I'm going to hit tick on that. I'm going to zoom up on this side, and I'm going to extrude by this button here, everything. Now I can't extrude everything, it won't let me, so I need to go back into the sketch. So I'm going to click on find that sketch, I'm going to go back into that sketch, and the one thing I forgot, let's zoom up on it so I can see, there's no line from here to here, so I can't extrude the whole thing. So I need a line from here to here, like that, and press tick, and now I can extrude that one, and that one, and that one, and it's going to do a remove, but I'm not going to remove the whole way through. No, I can do the whole way through actually. Yep, I'm happy with that. The whole way through. That's just going to mean that the rope will more easily start to slot into those little teeth and grab through, and that'll make that work a little bit more nicely. The other thing that I found that I want to do is, oh, now I'm confused. So this side here, I want to draw on this. This is the small side without the cleat. I want to draw a sketch on here, and I want to put a little circle down here, and the circle is going to be 4mm, and I'm going to extrude it once it's finished, just that part through, and I'm going to extrude it, so I'm going to do a remove, and I'm going to remove it 9mm. That just puts, actually that's the wrong side, my bad. Whew. I'm making a few mistakes today. It's okay for me to make mistakes. I can learn from them. So I'm going to go back again. I'm going to put my sketch on the other side. It's the same side as the cleat. What I'm trying to do is make it a little bit nicer so that the rope isn't bending at the bottom around a corner. So I'm going to put that through there. Do my right cleat. Draw my circle at the bottom here. Make it dimension 4mm, 4mm. I said 4mm, and tick it and extrude that back through. Almost finished. I'm going to remove. So that should, if I look at it from underneath, remove that through to the middle. I'll make it 22. Okay, tick. So that's just going to mean that the rope will sort of sit in that channel a bit nicely so that it won't go around a corner too savagely. The other things I'm going to do, just as a refinement, you don't have to do these, is a fillet. This just makes it nicer to touch. So I'm going to click on these corners here and put a fillet in. The radius is probably wrong, but we'll fix that in a sec. That one there, and look at it from the other side now. That one there, and probably that one there. And I'm going to make it 2mm, not 3mm. Okay, that's a bit nicer. So now that I've got that there, I've got a nice rounded thing. I'm going to press tick. I'm going to, if you actually click on there and drag with the middle click, or with 2 fingers on your trackpad if you're using a trackpad, and I'm going to select that little circle in there to do the fillet as well. This just works a bit nicer in terms of putting less strain on the knot. So I'm going to put a fillet in there of 2mm. There it is. That just makes the knot work a bit better. Final thing I'm going to do is start to put some text on the side. Text is just part of a sketch, so I'm going to draw a sketch on there. I'm going to zoom up, and I'm going to use the text tool. So if I draw out a box for my text to go in there, my default text, I'm just going to type in my name, my initials, so that I know it's mine. Open sans, you don't get a lot of choice of fonts. And that'll be it. So there it is there. I can move that around by dragging on the side, or I can set it to be perfectly middle using dimension tools, that sort of thing. I'd be pretty happy with that if I'm going to put my name on it. So that's my initials, TIC. You could put anywhere up to probably 6 characters on the side. So you need to think about what it's going to be or look like. Let's get rid of that email. And once you've done the sketch, you tick on it, you do an extrude, you do a remove, but you only do it 1 millimeter deep. Okay, so that's going to, if I zip up there, it's going to be a little bit of an input there, and that'll have my name on it nicely. So you need to have text on it that's yours so that you know that it's yours when it comes off the printer, because everybody's will otherwise look the same. Now that we've got that, I'm going to rename the part. I'm going to call it my rope block. Press enter. And now I can just export it. Once I export that, I'm choosing STL. It's going to be Part Studio 1 rope block. And I'm going to click on export. It's going to download. And there it is in my downloads folder. I can now submit that rope block so that it can be 3D printed. And if you submit that to me, I will 3D print it for you. Sorry this has taken so long, but it is a good little activity to learn how to do a number of things without being a part that's really difficult to create or understand, and it's also a part that is very useful. Once again, you'll need some 4mm relatively soft squishy rope in order to use this. I also know that it works with 4mm shock cord quite well as well.